and I'm sure a lot of folks are thinking about this, is how did we get here today? A lot of folks are thinking about October 7th, a year ago from now, and if it was the first start of activism for a lot of the folks that are here. And they're saying, this was my first time getting involved in this, but what was going on before? What was the scene?
Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. First of all, salam alaikum everybody. Thank you very much for having me here. Jazakallah khair for the introduction. I think that the short answer is that the week before October 7th, I think it's important to remember the circumstances that were prevalent at that time. The week before, Netanyahu stood in New York at the United Nations, and he put up a map in which he said this would be the future of the Middle East. And on this map, there was a glaring omission. Palestine was not on that map at all. The Israeli ambassador to the United Nations here in New York then gave an interview to Cannes Television where he was asked about an interview given by a Muslim leader of a country that has two holy sites. We don't need to say which one, let's keep it vague. So the leader of this nation had given an interview in which he said that we are getting closer every day to normalization of ties in exchange for a, quote, pathway to a Palestinian state. So the Israeli ambassador was asked that this idea of a pathway of a Palestinian state, will that stop the Israeli government from signing off on normalization with this country? And the Israeli ambassador said that the government realizes that the moment there is normalization between us and this country with two holy sites, it will mean the complete Arab abandonment of the Palestinians. And when they realize the opportunities this represents, they will not halt the agreement over a technicality regarding a pathway to a Palestinian state. In New York here, dear Lord, this city, a lot of stuff happens in it. In New York here, there is a leader of another country. We won't name which one, but they say some people tend to call him Sultan. There was a leader of a Muslim country here, and he shook hands with Netanyahu and met with Netanyahu. And the message from this Muslim leader was, I'm tired of wrestling in the region. We found gas in the Mediterranean. I want access to it, but I'm being shut out by Egypt, by Syria, by the Israelis, by Cyprus, by Greece. I'm tired. I've got an economic crisis because I put up interest rates every year. And then I woke up one day, I said, this is haram 100%. So I'm going to bring it all the way back down. And that caused the currency crisis. My economy is in a mess. And also you are thinking of doing an economic corridor that goes from India through a country that many people like to make hijrah to. It's a small country with big towers. Through there, through land with two holy sites, through Jordan, into the Israelis. Don't do the economic corridor through these people, because when these people normalize, they normalize only because they want the US. Do your corridor through my country. Do it through me instead.
So let me actually ask you a question on that, on normalization. What does that look like before October 7th and after? Because now, right after October 7th, we see some kind of uniformity across multiple countries, of which many of us know, of which many of us may be from. How'd that look like before October 7th versus after?
I think in reality, and this is going to be quite painful to say, I don't think much has changed with regards to the idea of normalization or even the track of normalization. I'll explain what I mean. It's been almost 1 year of genocide. The Israeli ambassador continues to enjoy iftars during Ramadan and meetings in, we'll call the city Dhabu Abu. The Israeli ambassador to Morocco, for example, has not been kicked out. There is no reverse of normalization despite 1 year of genocide. There are many who will point to and say the one who said the pathway to Palestinian state is now saying no normalization unless there's a Palestinian state. But the interesting thing is that while that statement is being made, I don't know if you all saw 3-4 days ago on an Israeli account when they were showing the video of the plane going to Yemen to bomb Sana'a and Hudaydah. You will see the plane is flying over the sea between two land masses. That airspace is Saudi airspace. So while the statement, I said the country, while the views expressed on my own, they don't reflect those of MAS or anybody else associated with this event or anybody sitting here or anybody who came to see me.
MAS is a 501c3 organization.
Nothing.
Let's cut the recording now.
Yeah, they didn't say it. Yeah. To be honest, I know you guys laugh, but I've been across America towards multiple states. I have noticed that whenever I get to this point, I watch the imam run to the camera and quickly cut off the live stream. And so that's why when I say it, I mean it.
We cut it off before you started.
Very good. Alhamdulillah. So in this regard, so the statement being made is no normalization unless there's a Palestinian state. But the airspace remains open. There's no shutting of airspace. Oman shut the airspace. The Saudis have left it open. The land bridge has not been shut. I know many people in February were looking at articles. There's no such thing as a land bridge. They lied. Al Jazeera did an investigation. In March, they found that drivers were not willing to go to Israel from UAE. So what they would do instead is they would be lied to and told, don't go to Israel. This is going to Jordan, to a place called Irbid. Go there and leave the products there. And then the Israelis would cross over from Sheikh Hussein border. They'd go 10 kilometers to Irbid and pick up the goods. That land bridge has not been shut. $2 billion invested in Jared Kushner's investment fund. Jared Kushner, on a Sky News interview with Kay Burley, said to her that the Saudis have given me $2 billion and they have given us permission. The great thing is they are allowing us to invest that money in Israeli companies. If you look up the funds of Kushner's fund, those $2 billion have not been withdrawn either. In other words, normalization track hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed is that it's been delayed, because what they're saying is, don't look at what they're saying, Muslims, look at what I say, not what I do. And Zionists, look what I do, don't worry about what I say. And this is the point I finish on, in that what's happening about the normalization track is it's still ongoing at full speed, but rather because of the genocide, because some of you are angry, there is a need to allow some imams in the haram to make dua for Palestine. They haven't been allowed to for about a year and a half, 2 years. After October 7th, they were allowed to again, just in order, because as many of you read in the Politico article, I don't care about Palestine, but my people do, and therefore I need to throw them a bone. Otherwise, this is an issue that can genuinely topple my crown, my throne.
So you mentioned something important about the borders. What's going on when it comes to borders? Why can't people just enter into Gaza or enter into the West Bank? Why is there a layer that you were mentioning in between? Whether it is Jordan, it's Egypt, it's some other entity other than the two that we're discussing that is always in between.
I think that when we talk about the borders, I think there's a difference between the Egypt border, Rafah, and between the Jordan border. I think that Jordan, King Abdullah has made it absolutely clear that he just doesn't want to be dragged into this mess. If the Americans tell him take down Iranian missiles, he'll take down those Iranian missiles. The Israelis have asked him to make sure that body remains clear so that Palestinians don't cross into Palestine, or that the Jordanians don't cross. And it's important to remember that King Abdullah, before all this was happening, there was a threat, there was an attempted coup by the Saudis and by the UAE. Why? Because there was a proposal that was put by the Saudis, views expressed on my own. We can find this all on public record. Sheikh Google, hafadahullah wa ra'ah, has all this. You can find it. It's not private information. They had proposed to King Abdullah that given he is the custodian of Al-Aqsa, he should share this custodianship with the UAE and with the Saudis. Now, King Abdullah refused it. Why? Because he suspected that the reason they wanted to share the custodianship was because as part of normalization, they might be inclined to give rights to the Israelis over Al-Aqsa. And for those of you who want to really delve into it, if you're interested in it, Hamad bin Jassim, the former Qatari Prime Minister, has an interview where he says that there is a Gulf country that is going to Palestinians and buying their land, because Palestinians don't sell to Israelis. So the Palestinians were selling to anybody from this Gulf country, but then they would be surprised that they turn up the next day and settlers would have the title deed of the land that the Palestinians sold, because the Gulf country was acting as a go-between between the Palestinian land and between those settlers for the Israelis to establish legal rights over the land that would not have otherwise been sold. So King Abdullah, when he resisted that, you'll remember there was an attempted coup by his half-brother. But look at who was arrested in that attempted coup. Not only was the half-brother detained under house arrest, but also the man considered Saudi's man in Jordan was also arrested as well. So in terms of King Abdullah of Jordan, it's how do I maintain this balance in that my brothers are trying to topple me and so are the Israelis, because I am the final stumbling block to the rights over Al-Aqsa. It's not to defend him. But the Egypt border is different, and I tell you why. The Egypt border, there is a general there called Sisi. Sisi, there was a Wall Street Journal article in 2015 in which the Israelis went to the Congress and said, guys, Sisi is too excited about blockading the Palestinians. Before Mubarak used to shut the border but leave the tunnels, this guy is way too excited in terms of blockading them. He's going to force them in a corner and it's going to lead to a confrontation. Tell him, calm down. Don't be more eager than we are to blockade those Palestinians. Sisi's issue is that Netanyahu, given that he can't find a strategic victory in Gaza, his only option realistically is ethnic cleansing, which is ironically one of the reasons why he's escalating so much with Lebanon and Iran, because the only two times that Israel has ever been able to do mass ethnic cleansing was 1948 during a war and 1967 during a war. The Israelis believe they need the war in order to force the ethnic cleansing in a way that will be internationally recognized. Sisi, the issue with the Rafah border is, he knows that if he opens that border, it is most likely that many Palestinians will cross over into the Sinai Peninsula. Now, Biden has already suggested that he has $14 billion ready to give to Egypt to look after the Sinai Peninsula. They don't have enough for the Hurricane Helene. They don't have enough for the homelessness in Los Angeles. They don't have enough for your healthcare and stuff. I come from a country, we have free healthcare. It's amazing. And anyway.
Get to rub it in.
Yeah. His Majesty's Kingdom sends his salam. But anyway. But Sisi is aware that once he opens that border, those Palestinians will come into Sinai Peninsula. Now, even if they give him 14 billion, I don't know how many of you have met Palestinians before. You've all met them, right? Very stubborn, hard-headed people, you know, like they very, whoever, if you play football with them or soccer, as you call it, they're very difficult people to play with. Qawman Jabbarin. The thing is, these Palestinians is, they don't give up on their land, no matter where they are. So just as you had the tents in Lebanon, what came out of those tents? Ew, for algorithm purposes, we shouldn't say what. So from these tents in Sinai, what will come out? Ew, say it with me. Ew. When that happens, Sisi believes that the most likely scenario is the Israelis will cross the border and invade. Now, when they invade, here in New York, this city of yours, there will be a lot of lobbying, and in Washington, to say the Israelis are invading, tell them to stop. Sisi knows that when that day comes, Washington will not say that Israel is violating Egypt's borders. They will say that there is a terrorist threat that requires an international peacekeeping force, and we need to demilitarize this area and put the international peacekeeping force there. This peacekeeping force will be established predominantly of Israeli forces. When Sisi goes to the Arab neighbors to tell them, Ya ibadallah, oh, he doesn't say Ya ibadallah, but Ya jama'a, ya. When he goes to them and says to them, guys, look what they're doing, the Israelis are doing it, he will find that countries such as, you know, EAU, let's call it, will come out and say, we are joining this peacekeeping force. We are sending our troops to be part of it. You can go and we're not interested in helping you with it. And this is why the two borders are very different. With the Jordan border, he believes it's a matter of survival. With Sisi, he believes that if they cross the border, Egypt is next. And as much as it pains me to say, I think Sisi's calculation is correct in this.